So welcome guys, so welcome back to the Sustainable Times Investor and Founder podcast. Today we're joined by the team at PreComb, a Swiss biotech building functional precision oncology tools with its 3D twin platform. Now PreComb, they create patient-derived 3D tumor twins that uses automated screening to test how cancers respond to drugs and drug combination, with the aim of giving doctors and pharma companies more evidence and helping pharma teams make more predictive decisions. So in the next 25 minutes, we'll break down the tech into plain English, obviously the pharma use cases, and of course the fundraising and the scale-up journey ahead. So I want to give a warm welcome to Hal, who's the CEO, Jens, who's the co-founder, and Etienne, who's the strategy officer as well. So welcome, guys.
Thank you, Harvey.
Thank you for having us, Harvey.
No problem.
Happy to be here.
Well, thank you for your time. It's much appreciated. So just to get straight into it, guys, if we were to explain PreComb in a very simple format, maybe to a 4-year-old, how would you explain it?
How would we explain what PreComb does to a 4-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the first question that I had here was, in 12 words, what does PreComb do? And so basically, PreComb supports drug developers and cancer patients to identify effective cancer therapies. What happens today is that if one is unfortunately diagnosed with cancer, one's oncologist is doing his or her best to prescribe the right therapy, the most effective therapy for you. Now, a lot of these therapies are prescribed based on clinical studies, which are based on averages. Unfortunately, none of us as humans are average, right? We don't work on average. So it could work well or less well for you. What PreComb does is, in the field of functional precision oncology, we can really identify the optimal therapy for your own cancer using your own tumor and your own effectively your specific cancer, which makes it very effective in terms of ensuring that it's not sort of, if you like, a trial and error process with therapies that would otherwise, which is often the case today.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes complete sense. And what would you say is broken today then? What was the problem that you came across? I mean, where do sort of pharma still have so much guesswork? And what's broken today?
Yeah, so maybe I take this question. The problem which we are solving today is that genomics helps only a fraction of patients out there. As Helle already nicely described, cancer is a highly individual disease. And even though we have pumped billions of money into precision medicine based on biomarkers, on molecular signatures, it still helps only a fraction of patients. So this is where functional precision oncology is coming in, where we can benefit a significantly broader number of patients because we do an unbiased analysis. The patient-owned cell is the biomarker for us. And we can accommodate the treatments which the patient already has received, treatments which are in clinical trials, which might still be exploratory. This provides a significantly broader opportunities to, on the one hand, help physicians taking the right therapy decision, but also on the other hand, help pharma companies deciding on the right drug to move forward.
Now, and that's really interesting. And for you then, Jens, and for the company, what does like a good decision look like for you? Is it faster? Is it more accurate? Is it better outcomes? What are the key KPIs that you're looking at?
Everything goes down to predictive validity of the system. That is the key. We need to be predictive, and we need to be able, when we are working with patient tissue, we need to be able to predict patient response from a single test. We can't repeat this test. And this is how we have set up the whole test method. We can directly predict whether a therapy is leading to stable disease condition or to tumor shrinkage, or whether the tumor is still growing.
And how did this all come about then, Jens? I mean, how did you come up with this insight, and what was the founding story behind it? What did you see others that weren't really acting on?
Yeah, there were multiple incidences in my past life which have been leading to actually founding PreComb. I have been working in the hospital for a while during my postdoc, and talking with the physicians at the hospital, I already have seen that the success rate of therapy decision making in cancer is not very high. Using classical pathologist staging of the cancer types, but also with the upcoming molecular wave at that time, where everybody got super excited. But then at the end of the day, we have seen, okay, 10% of patients benefit from it. That's rather marginal for such a big investment. But I also have been working with collaboration partners at the clinical hospital here, the pediatric oncology department, and I've seen a poster with all kids laughing at you, and then I was asking, are these all patients you're working with? And they say, yeah, they're all dead. They had all brain tumors. There were a couple of those incidences where I thought, I think that there should be better ways, more effective ways, and more successful ways to help physicians to make the right treatment decision.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know someone that hasn't been affected by cancer in some sort of way, right? And it seems to be growing, every single year. And what would you say has changed recently that makes this more scalable?
So the most important thing what changed is that physicians noticed that molecular technologies is not the golden solution. This is one thing what changed significantly. And then I let Hale go with what else staged.
Yeah. So Harvey, I mean, really, in terms of, for PreComb, we really sit at the intersection of science, AI, and automation. And if you think of these as three, if you like, legs to our business, they've really come together to allow us to do more than we have ever been done before. Our tests produce roughly 5,500 images per test run. And you can imagine these are visual expressions of how a therapy is impacting a cancer. Now, analyzing that data, right, and extracting meaning from it requires a lot of processing power. And machine learning and AI really has allowed us to do that. And secondly, automation. So one of the challenges with this science, and Jens will be able to speak more to it because he has hands-on experience, but the way I would express it is that often there are companies out there that do work, but it's manual. So this is lab technicians in a lab doing these things manually. That also exposes one to human error, which is just a fact of life, but it also limits scale. So how do you, you can't really hire enough people to be able to do this at scale. Now, automation allows us to do that. So PreComb has gone through a very intensive process of automating the assay, which Jens developed very successfully. So we have a prototype that sits in Zurich University Hospital, but perhaps even more exciting, we've been able to strip down that automation into a very, shall we say, scalable unit that will allow us to really offer our technology to partners, hospitals, and clinics around the world and allow them to do something in a self-service way. So in summary, it's the combination of science, AI, and automation that really makes this a very real-time proposition.
No, it's really interesting and really exciting. And when was that first moment that you thought this is going to work? When was that moment for you guys?
I'll let Jens take this one. This is his baby.
Yeah, when we really had a good grip that it works. And to be frank, when we started the company from scratch, completely white paper, without having any data, the first time that I really believed this works when we started to work with a university hospital in Innsbruck, with a medical university in Innsbruck. Yeah. And we did the first screens on non-small cell lung cancer patient tissue. And we have seen retrospectively that we have been successfully predicting the drug response with our system.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time where I really started to believe in my own technology.
That's really interesting, and definitely can be significantly important, to really pushing through the developments in cancer treatment, which is great. And just walk me through. I mean, if you're someone on the side, and walk me through how the workflow actually works with this technology. So I'm assuming that you maybe take a sample, you then create the tumor twin. You then screen, and then obviously you have the readout. How long does that take? What is that the sort of workflow that you guys go through?
That is exactly the workflow we go through. We get the biopsy, but actually it's not us who gets the biopsy, not necessarily, because what Hal just described is the degree of automation enables us actually to implement our technology in the clinic. So the core idea is that not we use this here as a centralized service, but that we really scale this into the clinics, and that we enable our clinical partners to perform this in the hospital. But yes, they are getting the tumor tissue. Then we are dissociating the tumor tissue. We dissect them into the single cells, and then from these single cells we can produce micro-tumours. They're around 250, 300 micrometer in diameter. And we can produce hundreds of them from a single biopsy or from a single resection. So this allows us then to test 30, 40, 50 different drugs or drug combinations on one patient sample. And what we do then is we don't only measure viability after treating the tissues at 3 days. We are looking into the drug response dynamics. And this allows us not only to make a binary, to give a binary answer, responder or non-responder, and you don't know, what does responder actually mean? It's really providing clinically relevant outcome prediction. It's does this drug leading to remission, yes or no, or does this drug leading to stable disease condition? And this is where we think that the true clinical value is coming through our test system.
And this is what the system looks like, right? This one here, right?
This is
so how big is that device then? And you put these into hospitals, right?
Yeah, so this is a bit of an older image of one of the design concepts we have done in the past. We have two versions of the profiler in the meantime. We have one flagship with this fully autonomous with a super high scale, which is implemented at the University Hospital in Zurich. And then we have another one which is less high automated, which sits at a bench top. It does not take too much space, is significantly less expensive. And where we are working with one of the major liquid handling platform providers to ensure that we have sufficient manufacturing capacity. We are not a device manufacturer, and we don't want to make revenue with the device itself. We want to make revenue with the data which we are generating.
So this gets me excited, Harvey, because this is our business and revenue model. I don't know if you want to jump in there, because to Jens's point, this was a major step that we made in the last 12 months, which is finding a way to scale the automation from a prototype, which was very, very, very effective, but expensive, right? Down to a more affordable and scalable model where we partner with, to Jens's point, a device manufacturer that has both the balance sheet, the manufacturing capability. It really has accelerated our time to market. So happy to get into that if this is the right moment.
Yeah, sure. Let's jump into that then right now. So who is the buyer then? Who's the champion? How do the decisions get made then when you're selling this into your clients?
So as mentioned, our focus right now is on small and medium-sized biotech and ultimately large pharma, right? So those are really, we have a number of different, if you like, streams. One is what we call the service model, in which a drug developer will provide us with their therapy, their drug that they want tested, and they provide us with the drug. We identify the right cancer, the appropriate cancer indication that they want it tested on. So it could be, colorectal cancer or breast cancer or whatever it is, and we do that in our own labs in Switzerland. So this is the most, shall we say, the quickest and the tip of the spear for us in terms of our business. Now, the next phase, which is something that we're, really polishing at this moment, is what we've done is we've customized a liquid handler, a liquid handler is a pretty standard piece of lab equipment. But what we've done is we've effectively included an imager in it to allow labs to run a similar process that we can do in our prototype. So this device would then allow our clients, our customers, to run the test themselves. So this is how we keep an asset-light balance sheet, where we're not building or manufacturing devices ourselves, which requires significant amounts of capital, and puts us in a whole different space with a whole different competitive analysis. We have partnered with Switzerland's largest device manufacturer in order to do this. Our clients would receive the device. We provide the test kits and the analysis that allows customers to do this in-house. And really, the one exciting development that we've had in the last 90 days is we've recently done a lift and shift of our tech stack out of our premises into the cloud, which will ultimately let our clients analyze their data in the cloud and in a very secure fashion within their own, shall we say, VPN or within their own gateway.
Sure.
Harvey, may I amend to this? Because we have been talking now about patients and clinical use, and we are talking about the use to support pharma customers. And the platform which we develop is serving both markets, the pharma market and also the clinical market. And what Hel just described is our go-to-market strategy, that we make early revenue with pharma customers. And then we are moving into the clinical space, into the clinical market. However, what both markets share is the need for a platform which is capable to predict drug-specific and patient-specific drug outcome to make better decisions in both worlds. The pharma companies need to decide on the drug which to put forward, and the physician and the clinicians need to decide on the drug which is best suited for their patients.
And so where do you sort of sit in the hospital pathway then? So what happens right after you have your readout? What's the sort of process?
So we have and maybe Etienne can talk about our reactor platform, the cloud-based platform which we are currently establishing.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the hospital process, the idea is that once a patient is diagnosed with cancer, a biopsy from their tumor is taken, that's put into the platform, which will sit in the hospital. The pathologist will run the screen based on the drugs recommended by the oncologist, and that data will then be sent to us via the cloud. We can then do our analytics, use our kind of AI machine learning algorithms to make predictions around which of those drugs are the most effective for that patient. And then we'll send a cloud-based report back to that treating oncologist with all the data. And the goal here is not to replace the oncologist, because you'll always need that human touch. The goal is to give the oncologist more data on which they can make an informed treatment decision.
Understood. Okay. And what about pharma then? Where do you create the most leverage with pharmaceutical companies? Is it the preclinical screens? Is it the combo design? Where is the most leverage with the pharma companies?
Yeah, sure. I can. Well, Jens, do you want to take that?
No, please go ahead, Etienne. We are talking so much here.
Yeah, so the drug discovery and development process for a pharma company can be thought of like a massive funnel, where at the very top they're going to start with 1 million different chemical compounds, and they're trying to whittle that down all the way into maybe one drug candidate that they then take into clinical trials. And the reason for that is that clinical trials are extremely expensive. And so given that our platform can screen 30, 40, 50 drugs at the same time, we come in the end of that preclinical phase where the pharma company might have 10, 20 drugs that all they're considering for taking forward into clinical trials, but they want to test them in a variety of doses and combinations to get a really good sense of which of those are actually going to work in humans before they spend that money on running that trial.
Sure, that makes sense. And what would you say is the proof points that create the most conviction today? Is it the validation? Is it the partners? What creates that most conviction in the market?
It's a mixture of everything you said, Harvey. It's the partners. We decided to, before we even go to publish our first paper, we immediately started to benchmark our test platform with already established platform at clinical partner sites to ensure that we generate additional value with our platform. So we are working with the University Hospital in Heidelberg, with the DKFZ, the largest European cancer center. We're working with the NCT in Dresden, that's a large cancer network in Germany, with Innsbruck, with Zurich, to ensure that the model, that the test method which we are developing, which we have developed, is bringing value to the oncologist. At the same end, we always have been in touch and have been let us challenged by pharma companies to also make sure that we are working into the right direction for pharma companies. So what is the greatest value inflection point? That will be the clinical trials we are anticipating to perform to prove clinical predictive validity of our test method. We have done clinical use cases and they were super promising. And the next stage is now to enter proper clinical trials with a statistical sound number of patients.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's a nice transition onto sort of your fundraising journey, because, we have a lot of founders listening to this podcast, and they're always, looking to raise funding. We know with investors, they're always looking for those certain milestones to be achieved to trigger, certain clauses or to provide follow-on funding. I know you guys, I think, got some early seed funding in early 2021.
We've had a seed round and a Series A, correct?
So I know you had some lead investors like Kin-led Family Office, which I know we personally work quite closely with. I know, you've also had Long VC and some other investors come on board as well. So tell us about your fundraising journey. Obviously, what triggered the decision to raise? Obviously, it's quite expensive to run automation, AI. But what milestones really mattered to these investors when you started raising funding?
Look, I've been part of PreComb for the last 2 years and really took the lead in the Series A, and I'll let Jens perhaps talk to the seed round. But what I can say is that the business potential, I think, is what separates PreComb from its competitors. So science, if science projects stay that way as sort of science experiments but can't be monetized, it's good from an academic perspective, but as an investment, they become slightly fragile, right? And I think what we've been able to demonstrate at PreComb and really prove to our cap table, our investors, be they Kin-led, we also have the High-Tech Grunefeld, which is a very important investor out of Germany, and you mentioned Launch VC, who are sophisticated investors, and I think what they've had confidence from our commercial focus. And I think it's this commercial focus which has really allowed us to raise the Series A and to see a significant uplift in our valuation over time. And I think it's this focus which sets us apart from the competition and allows us to go with very credible revenue models and targets to market and raise money accordingly. I'm not sure. I think originally in the seed round, probably it was based on science, and now we're much more commercially oriented. And this was the pivot that we've taken in the last, say, 18 months to 2 years. Anything to add there, Jens?
No, I think that's the journey every startup is going through. Seed stage, you're pitching the idea, but at a certain stage, you need to see you need to demonstrate commercial traction, and I think that's where we are right now. Over the past, I would say, over the past 6 weeks, we have done major steps towards proving commercial traction. We have now. We are in multiple discussions with a small, mid-size, on also large-size biotech company, biopharma, biotech and pharma companies, who are interested to explore the potential of our platform to use it for decision making within their drug development and drug discovery pipeline.
Mm. And how have you found the fundraising environment over the last couple of years? You're of course in the biotech, deep tech arena. How have you found the fundraising industry, the industry over the last few years?
Look, I think it's been very interesting. I think we're in a very compelling space. Unfortunately, cancer is something that affects many people at a very human level. Myself, I've had a journey within my family around cancer, and I think the promise of PreComb really is very compelling for all classes of investors. I think, on the other hand, for the average investor to understand the complexity of what PreComb offers from a science perspective, it's pretty sophisticated science, and it's sometimes hard for the investing community to get their arms around the promise that we have. I think on the whole, PreComb has done very well in what has been, shall we say, a challenging environment, shall we say, over the last 2 years. But in closing our Series A and bringing additional investors on board, I think we really reflects how compelling our offering is.
Sure. And then that's one of the reasons why we decided to, of course, get involved and invest alongside the Kinled Family Office, because I don't know one person that has been affected by cancer. I mean, I think it's 1 in 3 people now get cancer. I think there were the latest stats that were recently released. So yeah, it's very very compelling. And how do you guys stack up with the competitors in this market space? Because there's of course quite a few people that are trying to do precision oncology. What really sets you apart, and what really made investors get that conviction in what you guys are developing?
So I'll jump in here, because Jens can sometimes be a little bit humble in terms of what he's done, but I'll say it. So I think the core science really sets us apart. So I think the fundamentals of the assay that Jens developed is really the heart and soul of what separates us from the competition. On the back of that has been our ability to then automate it, right? As I mentioned earlier. So the quality of the data that's coming out of the assay, which is really the raw science. But then again, I said it earlier in this discussion, and I'll say it again, the need for automation really allows then for scale, which really means impact, right? Because it's all well and good to have great science, but if you can only do it on a one-off basis in a lab, that's fine from an academic perspective. But in terms of really making an impact on people's lives, it's the automation that allows us to scale. So I think from what I see very little competition from a commercial basis. Sort of, if you like, this is sort of people with a scientific background that have looked at the economics of their business and really have developed a business model which is decentralized, which is our business model, asset light, with very compelling margins, which once we get, as the traction grows, we really see this as being an extremely exciting business for our shareholders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got to have those venture return potentials, especially if you're bringing in venture capital, right? And what really changed in your pitch after the first 10 investor meetings? How did you sort of adapt and approach those investor meetings?
I'm happy to take this. So I think as a deep tech science company, it's quite tempting to want to explain all the intricate details of how amazing your science is and why it's so impactful. But at the stage that we're at now with our fundraising, investors also need to see not just that the science works, but also that it's commercially viable and scalable, to Hal's point. And those things go hand in hand. And it's all well and good to have amazing science, but if you can't let that science impact millions of people around the globe through your business model and through your platform, then it's maybe not a venture scale business.
Got to really demonstrate the commercial element to the business, which is absolutely critical. And what would you guys say the single best fundraising lesson that you'd give to biotech founders that are listening today?
I think from my perspective, and I've touched on this before, I really think making things commercial is key. Because simplifying the message, making sure that investors can understand what the commercial outcomes might be in your business, and ensuring that there is a commercial focus within the business. The challenge of life sciences or biotech is combining science with commercial outcomes. And I think if you can make that link and make it clear to investors what the potential is, it's very important. The other angle that I really think is important is to understand the support network that your shareholder base can bring. Often they can be very well connected, can introduce you to other scientific and or commercial partners, and working in partnership with your board and obviously your investors. Everybody wants the same outcome. I think having those very close relationships and transparent relationships is very important as well.
Mm-hmm. Because I know Kinled invested, right? And they're one of the Europe's leading biotech and health tech investors. So I can imagine that they've brought a lot of value, alongside some of the other investors that you've got on board, which, they say that, picking your investors, it's like getting into marriage, if not worse. So, that's completely understandable. So what we'll do is we'll quickly go into a lightning round just to quickly finish up, guys. And I'll just say, a couple of things and just give me your instant response. So what was your biggest earliest mistake that you made?
Transparently, we learned a lot from the exercise, but we spent a good deal of time and effort building bespoke solutions that were difficult to scale. This is a reference to the prototype, which is very effective, but it's difficult to scale that. Since that, we've really pivoted to more out-of-the-box solutions, which can be scaled much more easily and much more affordably.
Excellent. And what's the hardest lesson that you've learned?
I mean, I can speak to this. Look, healthcare is a highly regulated industry, right? Where you really need to learn and develop the expertise to navigate the regulatory landscape. And I think that sets healthcare apart from perhaps other industries which may be more lightly regulated. And I think that's something that needs to be understood, and the expertise needs to be built within the company to move forward effectively.
What's one weekly key metric you guys are measuring within the business?
The three of us will say the same.
Sales.
There we go. Yeah. It's all selling. This is what we're doing. Look, I mean, it's not sexy, or maybe it is sexy, but the truth is that this is the biggest indicator of appetite in the marketplace, and this is what all three of us are focused on all day, every day.
And what's one belief that you hold that most people in biotech disagree with?
I'm going to let Jens take that one.
So, I appreciate that, guys. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's much appreciated. And just before we finish, what do you need most right now? Is it, pharma collaborations, hires, capital, talent? And if one listener can open a door for you this week, what would it be for you?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you so much for your time, guys. We'll include the links to the show notes below in the description. Also links to PreComb and where you can contact the team. But thank you so much, Jens, Hal, and Etienne, for your time this afternoon. It's been very inspiring to hear about the technology, the impact that you guys are making, and I'm really looking forward to scaling up and being part of the journey long term. So thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thank you, Harvey.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you,
guys.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.